I hope you can hear me, but we can't obviously shout too much. But we can think of different things that happened up here. So significant. Bethany just over the back here, where Jesus stayed so often. Where the triumphal entry came from. Jesus, when he saw the people and he wept over Jerusalem, he ended up here. And when he went to Gethsemane to pray, this is all the area of Gethsemane. So it probably looks a bit different to how you imagined it, because I think in our minds we have a picture of Gethsemane and the Mount of Olives as being a very peaceful place where you can go and find seclusion. But actually, and particularly in the week of the crucifixion, nothing could be further from the truth. Now, the whole of the Mount of Olives is one massive campsite. You can imagine that. And the Bible tells us, let me just read 2 verses to you. Each day, Jesus was teaching at the temple, and each evening he went out to spend the night on the hill called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to hear him at the temple. And so actually what the Mount of Olives is an absolutely giant campsite. At Passover time, the population of Jerusalem, and bear in mind, I think if you remember when I said the temple area, that's 35 acres, that temple area was a fifth of the city. So there wasn't a great deal of city beyond the temple area. And certainly no room to accommodate all the pilgrims who were coming from all over the country to worship at Passover time. And so this Mount of Olives, became a huge campsite. People lived here, camped here, and every day you go down these slopes through the Kidron Valley and up to Jerusalem. And you can see it's just about a 20-minute walk. And that gives us a clue as to why Judas was needed. Let me read you 3 more verses. When Jesus had finished praying, he left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley, so that's the valley that we see here between us and Jerusalem. And on the other side there was an olive grove, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place. And that's the key of why Judas was required. Because it wasn't just coming up into a leafy wood and saying, oh, there's Jesus. They would have come up amongst thousands, literally thousands of people. This place would have been heaving at the time of Jesus. And the soldiers trying to find Jesus would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Absolutely impossible. But Judas, the Bible tells us, knew the place. Jesus, no different from us, we have our favourite places when we go places. Yeah, that's my favourite table in that cafe, that's all of that. And Jesus and his disciples had a little place which they called their own, you know, but it was amongst thousands of people. And the Bible's very clear that Judas knew the place because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the grove, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and Pharisees. And they were carrying torches, lanterns and weapons. So the betrayal of the Lord Jesus happened that night, we know that. And you may just begin to imagine it a little differently now from how we have imagined it through our kind of Western eyes. It would have been a heaving place, a place of great noise and a place of great crowds. Of course, there were places where people would go off and pray and do things, but it would be amongst a lot of people.